Okay, hello everyone and welcome. So I had an experience recently with someone who tends to do a lot of work on their phone. If they do any work on a personal computer, it's for work. At work, they use a Windows machine, a Windows 11 machine. Obviously now Windows 10 is end of life, and they came to use Linux Mint and had a few frustrations. Those frustrations were such that I didn't really think that they weren't major issues really, but I can see why somebody who's not used to using something different may find them frustrating. There's certain things that work in a slightly different way. I would say they're better. I would say they're better design decisions that have been made, but purely on the basis that they're unfamiliar and it's breaking someone's workflow, it can just feel frustrating. So given that Windows 10 is now end of life, Windows 11 does not run on or is not supported, I should say. The crazy thing is that it will run on some older hardware if you know how to do it, but out of the box, it's not. Older hardware is not supported. So there's a lot of computers that are going to end up, a lot of laptops, a lot of desktops, they're going to end up in landfill, and they really don't need to. You can put on a Linux operating system, you can breathe some new life back into them. Potentially you can use them as what we would call a daily driver, where you're using them every day as your main PC. I am therefore going to create a bunch of videos, nothing fancy. I'm literally recording this through a wireless headset, a Logitech wireless headset. I haven't got a fancy microphone or anything, and I'm just using a simple screen recorder to record the screen and show you how to use Linux Mint, in this case the Mate edition. And particularly the reason that I'm doing that is that's my recommendation to anyone who's got older hardware. You can use XFCE as well. A lot of what I'll be showing here will be relevant to that as well. Some of it won't, but I think that Mate is a good it's a good compromise between let's get this to run fast and let's have a nice desktop as well. Your desktop is just what you see on the screen. So in Windows, you don't really hear that term because you just get given the desktop you get given. In Linux, you can have several different desktops. In this case, we're going to use the Mate desktop. I may do some videos for using Cinnamon in the future, but Mate is my preferred, and there's nothing wrong with using Mate at all, in my opinion. So if you are moving into the land of Linux Mint and you're using Mate, certainly the videos that are going to be upcoming soon are going to be really useful to you. But with that intro out of the way, let's actually get on with the important part, which is how do you use this. And this is going to be kind of your introductory video. I'm not going to do a video on how to install Linux. There are lots of them available. I may do one eventually in the future. For most people that are quite new to this, that part's pretty scary. So I'm going to assume that you have somebody available who has been able to do that for you, but they don't necessarily have the time to sit down and show you how to use the entire thing. So I'm making an assumption here that they may have done this setup part for you, but the operating system is installed. I installed this fresh today, and we are now in the realms of the initial setup. Linux Mint to me has one of the best initial setup processes. It really takes you through it step by step. If I use any other of the Linux distributions, I kind of miss this because it's a nice little aid memoir, and it just takes you through things quite nicely. So we're going to click on Let's Go, and then I've got here literally a bunch of options, and I can go through these one by one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change the way that Linux Mint looks. So before we do that, you can see, if I just show you what it looks like by default, you've got this light theme. I say a light theme. For me, Linux Mint is really built for a dark theme, because you can see that this taskbar at the bottom is really, it's always dark. Even if you have it in light mode, it's dark, and it kind of looks a bit weird to me. But some people prefer this look. Me personally, I find, I'm not a particularly big fan of these colors that we've got of these icons, and I find this quite glary. I get a lot of glare off the screen, and it kind of, after a time, it fatigues my eyes. So I like to go for a dark theme, and this is what we're going to be doing here with the first option, which is desktop colors. I apologize, this has just popped up because it's trying to prompt me for the fact that it has noticed that I've been using Linux Mint for the first time for a little while, and I haven't gone through the update process. That may happen to you. If that's the case, I'm going to show you how to do it manually, so I'm just going to get rid of that for now. This is what you should have seen, so let me do that again. I'm going to click on launch, and this is going to come up. Okay, this is what you're expecting to see. If you see that other window, just like you would in Windows, just press the cross in the top right hand corner. We'll come back to it in a moment. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my color. I quite like using the standard Linux Mint green. I know that you've seen here that you've got this kind of yellow look. I associate Linux Mint, I associate it with a green color, and I like a dark mode. Now, this is my favorite, and I don't know what the others are like now. These are a bit too pastely for me anyway, but I find that the contrast between various elements of the desktop, I should say, are really nice when I use one of these. So obviously you can see here you have a bunch of colors. The purple's really nice. If you want to go crazy, the red's nice, the blues are nice. I'm just going to go for the green. So I'm going to go for Mint Y Dark. That's my recommendation. I find it really easy on the eyes. And honestly, I don't really change anything else at all. Now you can change the background, you can change the font, you can change the interface. I am not going to make the recommendation that you change fonts or interface at this time. The operating system will operate very nicely without that happening, without you changing those. I apologize to say that. What I should say is without you changing those. But the background is something that people preferentially quite like. Now this is, if I remember rightly, this is 22.2 Zara. I'm actually quite surprised. The backgrounds on these aren't great, but if you click on background, you see it took a little while for that to load in. It will give you some options. I will do a video later about how you can grab an image. Maybe it's a photo that you've taken. You can use that as a background. For now, know that you can come here and you can simply change it to one of these. So there you go. We've changed. Let me get rid of that just for a moment so you can see that. I've changed it to that background. I quite like that. So I would quite happily use that. For now, though, I am actually going to go back to, I think it was this one. I'm going to go back to that one because it's quite plain, and it means that hopefully whatever I do on the screen, you will be able to see it quite easily. Okay, so that should do for now. I'm quite happy. So if we just go and experiment there, you can see that's changed everything. It's dark mode and it's a green accent color. I love this about the defaults of the Linux Mint desktops, the Mate desktop. Even if you use Cinema or XFCE, I just like the fact they keep it really simple. I don't like to be overwhelmed with too much. Nice dark color, nice dark theme, single accent color. We're ready to go. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Let's close that one down. Let's jump back into the welcome screen. So just like Windows, you can see here I've got a taskbar. I can click on any of those and it will bring up the window that I was looking at. Later on, we'll get a bit more fancy with how you can use your desktop in ways that you might not be familiar with. For now, we're just going to keep it probably what you've used before. You click on things, you get windows up. You close windows, you have several windows open, so we'll stick to that for now. System snapshots, I'm going to actually say don't worry about this. Others may disagree. I think there's a little bit of setup that's involved in that. It probably will scare away a few new users. That's generally there for if you break something, you can go back and you can fix it later. My recommendation is keep backups. If you need to, it's a free operating system. Free as in as in, well, it's free as in freedom and free beer, unless you wish to donate to the Linux Mint team, which I will of course recommend. It is a free operating system. So in that case, if something was to go terribly wrong, you've got your backups. You can always install a fresh new version. I've never had major issues where I've needed to use. I've had to rely on system snapshots, but maybe that's because I don't get too adventurous. What I will recommend is, and the older your computer, the less likely this is going to need to be the case. You may, this is probably showing my ignorance here. If you've got certain graphics cards, like NVIDIA graphics cards, if you've got quite a high-end PC, you may need to go through this process. It may be essential that you go through this process. I'm going to assume that you're probably trying to run Linux Mint on what we would call a potato, an older computer. In which case, if you click on this, which I recommend that you do, but if you click on this, you're probably going to find, there we go, no drivers needed. But if there are drivers that are needed, then this is the way to install them. You can install them through this graphical front end. What I will say is that again, one of the things that trips new users up, if you are a little bit more of a power user and you're used to the idea of buying some new hardware, something to work with your PC in the Windows land, and again, people that are transitioning from Windows, they may say to me, "Sure, it's nothing like that nowadays." But my recollection when I was using Windows a long time ago was that you would need to install drivers for pretty much every piece of hardware that you were using. You'll be pleased to know that it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but in the Linux land, that's all done for you. You don't have to worry about that. It's all part of the operating system. Certainly it's part of what we would call the kernel of the operating system. You may find every now and again, though, that newer hardware doesn't always work. You have to wait a little while for the Linux world to catch up, or you do need to install drivers manually, which this was searching for. In this case, no drivers needed, exactly as I was expecting, because this is an older PC that I'm using here. Now the next thing that we need to do, and this is absolutely essential, and this will be essential going forwards, we will need to update the machine. Now, when you use Linux, updates are frequent, very frequent. That's a good thing. It's a bit of a shock to people when they first start using it. They're like, "Oh my word!" I mean, you literally, they may start a session using their computer and they'll do an update because they see that updates are available, and they'll end the session and more updates are available, and they're not used to that in the Windows land where it might happen every few weeks or so. That's because it's being updated all the time, and that's a good thing because it means the security is being patched, new features are being patched, and bugs are being fixed. So I won't worry about that, and you will see this initial process is going to take a little while, but as a general rule, they're actually pretty quick. So I may actually show that in a later video, how to update your Linux Mint Mate machine. For now, just know that if you see down here you've got a shield and you have a little orange dot, that means that updates are available. But we're doing this as part of the setup process here anyway, so I'm just going to click this. Now the first thing it's going to tell me is there's actually actually it's not here, is it? Tool provider. All right, sorry. So click OK to this. This is basically just explains to you what the updates are. I think it's the next screen. Here, right, okay, so this seems to happen pretty much every time you install Linux Mint. Not entirely sure why. It's asking you to install a new version of the update manager. Why that's not bundled in with the operating system when you download it off the Linux Mint website, I don't know, or of course a mirror. Anybody who knows why, tell me in the comments. Explain to me, because I'm not really sure. But it doesn't really matter because it's very simple to do. What I am going to recommend you do first, though, do you want to switch to a local mirror? I'm going to say yes. Get used to this in the Linux land, putting in your password quite frequently. This is a good thing, by the way. And again, it's another one of those things that takes people by surprise. It's a good thing because anytime that you need to change anything on your machine, you will need to log in temporarily. It's kind of log in. I'll go into the technicalities here, but you will need to do that as an administrator, as this what we would call in Linux and a super user. So it'll ask for a password to do that, and that's great. So I will put in my password, and I'm probably going to get this wrong. Bear with me. Yes, I got it wrong. I'm going to have to type that slowly to make sure I get it right. There we go. And it's allowing me now to see this screen where I can change a mirror. What is a mirror? A mirror is a location that you can update, you can download your updates from. That is geographically a bit closer, so should be a bit quicker. There is some fancy work that's done in the background to make sure that what you're downloading and what you're installing is legit. It's the packages that are, for want of a better term, approved by the Linux Mint team. So don't worry about that. I would just recommend that if you click on that top one there, which is your main mirror, just give it a little while just to catch up. But what it's essentially doing is it's ordering the available mirrors in terms of their speed. And you can see here server.net for me is the fastest. So it's a no-brainer for me. I'm going to use that one. And then I'm going to click, it says click here to update the apt cache, apt cache. Apt just is advanced packaging tool, I think it stands for. So don't worry about that. All you need to do is just click that to say yes please. Let's make that change, and it will go through that update, which is fantastic. Okay, so we're going to say brilliant. Let's get rid of that screen. I'm now using the local mirror. That should make this a bit faster. I'm going to click apply the update. Again, this is exactly as I say. It will ask you to put your password in a lot. That's a good thing. It means that if somebody was to gain access to your computer somehow, potentially even remotely, there's a limited amount of things they can do unless they know your password. Of course, people are always finding exploits to get around these things, but as a general rule, it makes life difficult for someone who's a bad actor. So put my password again, and that's installing my update manager. So that's going to reload the update manager, and now it's going to tell me what updates are available. And you'll be surprised, actually, there'll be a lot of updates available, even though you've just installed the operating system, because things are moving so frequently. Even the day after they release a new version of Linux Mint, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that needs updating, and this is just going to give you the latest version of everything. Again, you can get fancy with this. I would say, as a general rule, just install everything, just update everything that's recommended here. If you, we'll go into this in later videos, if you follow good practice, good safe practice, you shouldn't have any need to worry about it. There's always the possibility that an update will break your system, just as has happened many times in the Windows world. It's annoyingly frequent. I have good conversations frequently with the IT team at the company that I work at about how annoying this can be in the Windows land. It's happened to me once in Linux, but it's happened to me once in, how long have I been using it for? 10 years. So in a decade, it's happened to me once, and I keep backups. So it's not a high risk, and if you keep backups, it's not really a problem. So just go ahead and install the updates. And again, as I've said, it will ask for your password. That's a great thing. So I will probably fast forward through this part of the video because there's not a huge amount to see here. We've got a green bar that's gonna go across the screen as we download, and then we'll have something similar as it installs. If you really want to see something which is Not that exciting. You can click on the details if you wish, and it will tell you what's being downloaded as opposed to just the overall progress bar. Okay, so I shouldn't really complain because that took, I don't know, less than 3 minutes in real time. So even that is going to be the longest. It should be the longest time that you'd have to wait for updates to finish when you're updating your machine. And one thing that you will notice is it actually occurs in the background. You could actually continue working on something whilst the machine updates, which to me is one of the biggest selling points of using Linux. It's not all distributions that give you that luxury, but certainly Linux Mint does. The Ubuntu family of Linuxes do, and I absolutely love that. So really convenient. You will see here that it's saying a reboot's required. That's probably because the kernel. Don't worry about what these terms mean. But if you are interested, it's probably because the kernel got updated. I don't know. I didn't look, but it is telling me that a reboot is required. It won't always. And if it does and you have everything saved, it might be the end of your session. If it's the end of your session, you just close down your computer because, of course, it will boot next time you use it. And if it's at the beginning of your session, you may go, do you know what, I'll reboot later. It doesn't really bother me, in which case you can just get rid of this here. But you may wish to say, actually, just, do you know what, reboot it now. And if you click that button, it will do that for you. I've got some other things to show you, so I'm actually going to say, no, I'm not going to reboot it now. I will reboot it in a moment. So there's not a huge amount that I do with the next two at this point. You've got your system settings, which you can launch, and you can go into these at any time. And there's certain things that you could change in here. Screensavers, if you like screensavers. I'm not a big fan of screensavers. I just like the screen to turn off if it's inactive. There's not really much that you need to do at this stage. So I would actually say, as a general rule, don't worry about that for now. Same with Software Manager. Yeah, okay, so it might be that you've used Linux Mint a few times and you've got a fresh install and you know that there's some software that you want to install. You could jump into there. I would say before you do that, you're probably better off getting familiar with what is available to you already, what's already pre-installed. So we'll look at that first in a video, and then we'll look at how to install software in a later video in case there's more things that you would like to use. One thing I will say is essential though is this one here, which is the firewall. I would always recommend turning the firewall on, and let me just get this password in. And I would say that it is actually that simple. It's a case of turning it on. That's all you need to do. So firewall setup is something that a lot of people will be like, oh, that's scary. It's really not. And this here will actually show you that it's not. Getting started, an uncomplicated way to manage your firewall. You literally, all you have to do is set the status to on. Set incoming to deny and outgoing to allow, and you will see that that is already set up here. So all I need to do is click that and my firewall is on, and that's all I do. Again, if you're a bit more of a power user, please feel free to put something in the comments and say, Sean, I would recommend actually that you could do this, this, this and this, because I would like to learn as well. As far as I'm concerned, that's all I need right there. And that's really it. You can have a look at some documentation if you want to look at documentation. Maybe later on in your journey that would be really interesting to you. For now, you could just follow along with my videos. There is some places to get help, forums and chat rooms and so on and so forth. But again, maybe later down the road you'd like to delve into that. There's There's an opportunity to learn how to contribute. Again, we're not going to worry about this for now. Let's just start using the operating system and see how we get on. So, final thing I'm going to say, you've been through that process now. I would say unclick that, because you don't want this coming up every time you start your computer. So let's just unclick that option there. Show this dialog at startup, and you will no longer see this when you start your computer in the future. Final thing that I'm going to show you is when you have a fresh install, you will have a system report or two available down here. If you click on that, this is saying to you you didn't set up your time shift app, which will make, I think they call them system snapshots or whatever. So you can, if you have problems in the future, you can revert. As I've said, I wouldn't worry about this at this stage. Let's just ignore this report. Yes, I do want to ignore that. And it says no problems were detected. So we're good. You'll notice that the icon that we had down here has disappeared now. And that's it. That's your setup. I'm not going to have anything else in this video. I'm going to split it up and I'll show you some basic usage of the operating system in another video, along with a couple of extra setup steps that you may wish to do. But that is it. That's the real basics of what you need to do in order to start using your computer that is now running Linux Mint with the Mate desktop. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one. Like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff, because then it will be suggested to you in the future, and if you want to follow along, you'll be able to. Thank you very much.